After months of warm-ups, we're now in a sprint to the start of the 2008 presidential contest. Bill Kristol, you wrote a column late Wednesday night. It was posted at 12:24 a.m., right after the Democratic debate, saying that after watching it, you are more confident than ever the Republicans are going to win in November of 2008. Why?
Well, because the Democratic candidates have more passion in conducting the war on smoking than the war on terror. Most of them want to give up in Iraq. They don't want to do anything serious to stop Iran from going nuclear or from killing American soldiers in Iraq. I kind of had assumed that the presidential candidates would be more responsible than the Democratic Congress, but it turns out, with the partial exception of Hillary Clinton, who is trying some of the time to be a serious person, the rest of them are just like the Democratic Congress, totally irresponsible.
Asked could they commit that in January 2013, at the end of presumably their first term, all the troops would be out of Iraq, they said no. Now, they were responsible, but there's an irresponsible wing of the Democratic Party that is the source of its energy and money that sooner or later is going to get impatient.
I agree that they deserve a little credit for recognizing reality, but still, with the partial exception of Senator Clinton, I was a little shocked at how willing they were to simply be cavalier. And look, they attacked Senator Clinton for voting for the resolution, that the sense of the Senate resolution that the Quds Force, the Iran Revolutionary Guard, should be designated a terror sponsor and there should be sanctions against them. 76 senators voted for that. A majority of Democrats voted for it.
You voted against that. Why?
Because I don't think everybody in the military there is aligned with Ahmadinejad. And Kit Bond and I have talked about this. I think we ought to be supporting the reformers in Iran. And very often the military people, because they're so familiar with combat, are some of the people who are most interested in better relations with the United States.
And I regret Senator Clinton voted for this resolution labeling the Revolutionary Guard terrorists. This was provocative. It didn't need to happen.
As for the Senate resolutions, really here, I think there has been calls to characterize the Guards. This, in my view, will only lead to rising tension again.
Let's talk about the Republicans as well. And let me start out with Newt Gingrich deciding not to get in.
Which we found out yesterday that Newt Gingrich is not, after all, not going to run for president.
Well, apparently he discovered that there's a law involved, McCain-Feingold, which would have prohibited him from continuing to run his political action committee, American Solutions, and at the same time even raise money in pledges for an exploratory committee for president.
Gingrich spoke first to Fox News.
We learned this morning that under McCain-Feingold's provisions, American Solutions, an organization I've helped launch, would actually be isolated from any of my activities, and the penalties are criminal. Unfortunately, the effect of the McCain-Feingold Censorship Act has been to weaken the middle class, to make it harder to have a middle-class candidate, and to make it much, much harder to raise money.
Any second thoughts overnight?
No. The McCain-Feingold Act criminalizes politics.
What does that mean?
Well, we learned yesterday morning this was the decisive moment. I had taken leave from Fox. Randy Evan had taken leave from his law firm. We had a website set up to launch on Monday. And we were informed yesterday morning that if I had any communication with American Solutions after I became a candidate, it was a criminal offense.
Why he only discovered that at the last minute, I don't know.
I find it hard to believe that yesterday he suddenly learned that he couldn't do that and still run American Solutions, his nonprofit.
Well, maybe it was a tease all along, you know. It's quite possible, I think.
The race is full. The race is full of candidates. There are choices for Republicans. I think Newt rightly understood he just wasn't needed.
There's certainly nobody that appeals to the evangelical base, the grassroots of this party at this time, and that's the problem. And Thompson's tried to fill that slot, and Newt Gingrich wanted to fill that slot, and Thompson has been a disappointment, and Newt Gingrich has decided that he wants to get out.
I love it when liberals are concerned that the Republican candidates aren't appealing to the evangelical base.
That's the truth, isn't it?
No, the truth is the Republicans have very attractive candidates, at least three of whom, Giuliani, McCain, and Thompson, have real crossover appeal, and I think one of them could beat quite. I would favor right now one of them to beat Senator Clinton.
Let's take a look at the latest Fox News Opinion Dynamics poll, which shows Hillary Clinton beating the Republican frontrunner Rudy Giuliani by 7 points, and she does even better against other Republicans.
You were saying just before you went on the air that you thought she had an 80% chance of being president.
I've said that publicly. I believe she is very professional. I think the Clinton machine is the most powerful political machine in modern America. I think her husband is the smartest politician in our generation. That's a formidable gathering. I also think the Republicans have got to get out from under Washington. And if we nominate somebody who is a continuation of where we are right now, we're going to lose.
If she's the nominee, don't Democrats stand a pretty good chance?
Oh, I think any Democrat stands a very good chance. I mean, you could make the argument, Chris, in fact, that Hillary Clinton stands the least of the good chances because as her rivals on the Democratic side have been pointing out, she has a lot of history, including her husband, that people will use against her, and it energizes the Republican base like no other Democrat.
Because I think Senator Clinton, in the end, is such a polarizing figure.
Rex Reese from Virginia writes, Hillary says she's stronger as a result of Republican attacks over 15 years. Her negatives are at about 50%, and the gloves aren't even off for the 2008 election. Here's a girl who loves pain.
Her negative ratings are higher because she's been beat up on for 16 years. And I asked them, do they really want to reward the Republican attack machine that brought us the Swift boat ads, the same machine that puts Senator Max Cleland's picture in an ad with Saddam Hussein and John Walker Lind? Yeah, they're good at what they do. But you become polarizing in American politics, not if you attack somebody, but if someone attacks you. So I just think this argument doesn't hold any water. She's going to do fine.
The other night, the Democratic debate in New Hampshire, I read a statement of our conversation from last year.
I remember that very well.
Every one of us can imagine the following scenario. We get lucky and we get the number 3 guy in Al-Qaeda, and we know there's a big bomb going off in America in 3 days, and we know this guy knows where it is. Don't we have the right and the responsibility to beat it out of him? They could set up a law where the president could make a finding, or could guarantee a pardon, or could guarantee the submission of that sort of thing post facto to the intelligence court, just like we do now with wiretaps.
Now, I didn't tell Senator Clinton, who had made that comment to me. This was her answer. Let's watch.
As a matter of policy, it cannot be American policy, period. These hypotheticals are very dangerous because they open a great big hole in what should be an attitude that our country and our president takes toward the appropriate treatment of everyone, and I think it's dangerous to go down this path.
It doesn't seem as if she's for the exception that you were outlining.
She was great, though. I thought, and then I thought the next part of it where she said,
the guest who laid out this scenario for me with that proposed solution was William Jefferson Clinton last year.
Well,
so he disagrees with you.
Well, he's not standing here right now.
So there is a disagreement.
Well, I'll talk to him later.
Tell me about You've seen that look before?
I have. Several times over the last 35 years. I loved it.
How was that conversation? Did you talk about it?
No, I told her I thought she was terrific. And I told her, you know, how the whole thing came up. And I told her, number one, I thought that the moment was great. I thought it was the defining moment of the debate.
Now, you say you love that.
I loved it. I thought it was the best moment in the debate.
No tug at all when
None.
she disagrees with you?
No, I loved it. She said exactly what she should have said. You know, I went back and read the whole transcript. And there's a general point, I think she's right. That is, I think America's policy should be to oppose torture, to honor the Geneva Conventions. And I'm not even sure what I said is right now. Yeah, I don't think you should now. The more I think about it, and the more I have seen that if you have any kind of little formal exception, people just drive a truck through it. Hillary's probably right about this. I loved how she handled this whole thing.
How much are you worried that, you know, this year, 2008, is shaping up to be another 1964 for the Republican Party?
Well, I don't 1964, you sort of stopped me. That was a massively one-sided.
Well, that only happens rarely, so I consider that a victory.
Yeah,
right?
Yes. Look, I think it's conceivable if we nominate the wrong person, you could end up in a 64.
In both parties this time around, we have a lot of candidates, and in both parties it is a very strong field.